Recording. All right. We're here today with Mr. Martin Atkins. How you doing today, Martin?
I'm okay. I'm frightened by your energy level.
You want me to take it down a notch?
No, it's fine. Do whatever you want to do.
I might take it up a notch. Now, get the fuck out of bed. It's probably the most useful advice ever. Tell me about how that came to you.
So, I'm an educator. I've been teaching for 17 years. And, but I'm also the father of 4 boys.
4. Wow.
And after several years of going into my kids' bedrooms going, come on, TikTok, motherfuckers. Here we go. It really is time to get, I'm like, okay, that's not working. So I put a slide, I speak all over the world about like music business and entrepreneurship or whatever. And I put this slide in my presentation. It was like a keep calm and carry on, right? You know, that vibe. But it just said, get the fuck out of bed. So I'm like, okay, now what's my justification? Well, if I get up at 5 a.m. and my arch rival, the singer in a band ironically called the Arch Rivals, gets up at 10, I am now 5 hours ahead. Well, that's not much, but at the end of a week, I'm 35 hours ahead. At the end of a year, I am 73 full days of work ahead of my arch rival. That's why you should get the fuck out of bed. So then, well, it was pretty good for my talks, as a kind of a fun little riff. But then I could go into my kid's bedroom and put up a poster, because we have posters made, and then say, look, this isn't me, your dad, lame dad telling you to get out of bed. This is actually part of one of the lectures I gave at South by Southwest and to an educational group of 1,200 people in Norway recently. Get the fuck out of bed. I don't think it made any difference then either. But then, I've been saying that every morning, tweeting it for 10 years this year. And about 2 years ago, somebody said, well, this should be a coffee. And I met the people from Dark Matter Coffee. And it was a really interesting meeting. It was the first time I've been to a meeting with a company empty-handed, because I thought we were just going to taste some coffee. And so I sit down and I'm like, oh yeah, here's some coffee. Here's a beer we did with 3 Floyds Brewing and the band Mastodon. Here's a 7-inch vinyl single we did with Derek Carter. Here's a cassette tape we put out. We're working on an effects pedal with somebody from Metallica. I'm like, what the fuck? I really wanted to do something with them. They're here in Chicago. And so we did get the fuck out of bed coffee. And it's been really good. It's been really good.
That's like magical that it came together into a physical form, coffee.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, it's been really interesting. So I've done a lot. I've been in a lot of bands. I have a Grammy, blah, blah, blah. But when you've got your own brand of coffee, people are like, oh, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, not about the Grammy or anything I've done, but I've got my name on a bag of beans, and suddenly I've got credibility.
Now, your kids, they aren't fans of this band, the Arch Rivals, are they?
I don't think they're fans of anything. Two of my 2 oldest boys have come out to do merchandise with my band Pigface. I don't know if that means they're fans of the band or they're just out there slinging merch. I don't know.
I want to ask you about Pigface, because you were born in the year of the pig.
Was I?
Yeah, 1959, okay. Right? And then last year was also the year of the pig, which saw Pigface touring again. And November's the month of the pig when you were doing shows. So how much Chinese astrology was involved in all this?
Well, shit. I wish you called me 6 months ago, because we could have done a couple of T-shirts. It's the year of the pig. Look out, oink, oink. I mean, holy crap. I was born in the year of the pig, and now I didn't know any of that. So what do you have to wait another 30 years for it to come round again?
12.
Oh, okay. Not well. I might make it. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll talk then. But this year is the year of the rat. And I loved your talk the other night, the Flowers of Romance one. And I lived in Boston for quite a while, where the club The Rat was. And you had a great story about that. I was hoping you could share that with us now.
So there was a few things going on. Punk was crazy at the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me now to think about it, you know. So there I am, 1979. I'm in a band with Johnny Rotten. We toured the States. We did American Bandstand. Craziness. At the end of that tour, I was actually fired for the first time of 2 times. I left eventually, but I was fired twice. But so we came over to the US with my band, Brian Brain, which is a 3-piece band. And just to give you an idea of what we were about, our rider was 4 cases of Heineken, liter of vodka, liter of brandy, liter of whiskey, and a bunch of other stuff.
For 3 people.
3 people, yeah. And and it was crazy. Sid Vicious was still alive. You know, the Sex Pistols had only been broken up for a year. I mean, you know, it's still a crazy time. And Bauhaus, U2, they're all staying at the same houses that we're staying as we go across the States. I was bottled in the face in Washington, D.C. at the 930 Club, 16 stitches, 8 subcutaneously. I was in hospital in New Orleans because my stitches became infected. I had alcohol poisoning in San Francisco at the Mabuhay Gardens, spent the night at San Francisco General. And so then we played Boston. It was the end of the tour. We had 1 night off before flying back to the UK. And back then we were drinking, I mean, we were drinking anything really, but we were on a kind of a White Russian kick. And so we were hanging out with these girls and we went out for drinks before we were to go and get the plane the next day. We went to the Rathskeller and we just wanted a quiet drink, which sounds ridiculous. After everything I just told you, hospital here, hospital there, stitches, we were just looking for a quiet time. But we go to the Rathskeller, we start drinking, and this band starts up, fuck you, fuck your mother, I'm gonna fuck your sister, a fuck, fuck, fuck with the fuck, fuck. And I'm just like, okay, next song, fuck with the fuck, fuck with the, I'm like, okay. Pete Jones, the bass player, says to me, I'll buy you a White Russian if you'll fucking take care of this guy. And this is where you see the beginning of my entrepreneurial skills, because I say to Pete, make it 2. And so he buys me 2 White Russians, and then I get up on stage. I threw the singer onto the dance floor. I unplugged the guitar. I knocked over 3 microphones, unplugged the bass, knocked over some cymbals, and then pick up a monitor and throw a monitor onto the singer who's lying on the dance floor. And at that point, I realized I'd gone too far. And so I stand there waiting for the band to jump on my back and the audience to attack me from the front, which I think would have been acceptable. I'd overstepped the limits. Nothing happened. People are just applauding. People start sending me White Russians over to the table. You know, I'm like, holy crap. 2 hours later, I'm having a piss in the bathroom. And while I'm pissing, somebody comes in, smashes me in the back of the head, breaks my nose into the wall, knocks me unconscious. As I fall back onto the floor, kicks me in the face and breaks my jaw. And that was G.G. Allin. And you know what? I felt like I went down and jumped right back up and ran out. But there was hardly anybody in the club when I ran. I think I'd been unconscious on the floor for 20 minutes. Ooh. Yeah, that's my G.G. Allin story.
So you've lost a lot of blood in this rock and roll game.
Oh, yeah. I still, you know, when I play with Pigface, I have a mirror ball that kind of wanders around here by where my cymbals are, suspended from a frame above the kit. I'm always just punching it. I kind of, I'm not really sure why, because I need my hands, but it kind of clears the mind. You know, it's just suddenly all of the outside world fades away and it's just pain and blood. But it also turns out that, you know, we auction my shirts each night for charity, and the ones that are covered in blood sell for more. So what are you going to do?
There you go. Ah. Now, you mentioned Pill playing on Dick Clark's American Bandstand. I've seen the YouTube clips of this, and it's just still so bizarre something like that would happen. Like this mainstream music show in America going out and playing pop tones and careering. Did you have a sense of how odd it was at the time?
No. I mean, there are people who say, oh, Pill disassembled the construct of American culture through American Bandstand and challenged Dick Clark as the icon. Yeah, we had no fucking clue what it was. I mean, the most impressive thing to me was that the sitcom Soap was filmed in the lot across the street. I was like, oh my God. Dick Clark came into the dressing room, you know, held his hand out. I'm like, who the fuck are you? You know, and honestly, it was like his hand had been burnt by a hot stove. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know what American Bandstand was. And I mean, I think anybody who hasn't seen it should go to YouTube and watch that clip. What happened was those songs in their original form were quite long. So Warner Brothers had somebody chop those songs down to a 4.5 minute length rather than 7 and 8 minutes. And so that was fine for me because we were all miming anyway, but so whatever. But John didn't know where the vocals were going to come in. So he just ran around. He ran around the studio trying to cover himself with audience members. But the fantastic camera crew, right, was like, camera 2, get the camera 3, zoom in, follow him underneath. And it was, you know, and Dick Clark hated it. Except everyone around him said, it's time. This was an iconic moment. You should let it go. And it was on the Best of American Bandstand. It's been on every year since. Well, they stopped doing it now, but yeah. My mum and dad used to call me from England. It was on, you're on the Best of again. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Because I mean, as much as I love pop tones, I think it's just such a wonderfully unique song. I've never heard it in a club. I've never even thought of dancing to it. And yet there's all these audience members dragged on stage, just moving around. It's so weird.
Hilarious. In hot pants, in like 70s disco outfits. Yeah, just fantastic. I mean, at the end of whichever the second song was, I'm not sure which one we did first. I mean, I just started playing the bass, and Joe Wobble, I just gave him the drumsticks, and I'm playing the bass because it was just like, this is hilarious. Yeah.
So you're working on a book about this time in Pill called Memories, which is the perfect title for such a book. How's that coming along? It's been a long journey. I think that I could have written it. I'm pleased I didn't write it 12 years ago, because I think I would have been in a mindset of like, well, I just read that John said this and that's not the case. This is what happened. And he's got the dates wrong. I played the tambourine on the, you know, and now I just don't give a fuck. And I started to do events around the world: Manchester, Tokyo, London, New York, LA. It sounds like a song. Pop music.
Yeah, pop music. I played on a song with him, by the way. But anyway, who likes jazz? His absolutely huge failure after pop music. But so I was doing events, and so when I did the event in Atlanta, you know, I had a 2-hour presentation, but then people were like, "Oh, I've got this tour pass. Have you seen these photographs?" You know, and so it started to grow. And then we were fully funded through a company called Pledge Music, where people pledge, you get funded, and then you get the money to make the book. And Pledge went bankrupt and fucked everybody. So then I started to do some more events, accumulating more material, and then the pandemic hit. So I've tried to do one event a week. I'm doing one tomorrow about our trip to Australia, where the head of Virgin Records at the time, who still lives in Australia, is going to call in. Larry White, who tour managed us and was managed the band, but tour managed us when we were on American Bandstand for Warner Brothers. He's going to be in on the call. So I'm accumulating more stories and opinions and bits and pieces. So it's going to be a coffee table book when it's done. It's taking a bit longer than I thought, though.
Oh, sounds great, though. Now, your other, sir.
It's been really great to connect with people. I was talking with Betsy Sherman, who I met in 1980, and she was on the call on Wednesday night. We did one. And so to connect with people from 40 years ago, it's just kind of awesome. It's also very strange to look back at periods in your life, right, that are so richly documented, right? So there are set lists from a show in 1980. There are reviews of a show. There are people's photographs. There's my diaries. There's the documentary footage of American Bandstand. I mean, so it's kind of strange to piece this story together from all these sources, you know, but it's great. But I look at my kids. Harrison's 23, Ian's 25. Ian's older than me when I left Pill, you know, and it's like, it's strange. It's strange.
Now, your other books, Tour Smart and Band Smart, are great, particularly with being in a band and touring aren't particularly intelligent things to do the way most people do them. What was the impetus behind those?
Well, you know, so I started teaching by accident 17 years ago. You know, I have a label here. We've released 350 albums since 1988. And I started to put together package tours like Pigface with Test Department, Sheep on Drugs, you know, another opening band, 2 buses, 20,000 promotional CDs, 80,000 postcards. We were really doing an amazing job of producing these tours. And I heard about the idea of interns. And so I went to Columbia College, Chicago, which is a few miles up the street here in Chicago. And I did a presentation to their faculty to get some interns. And after my presentation, they're like, fantastic, when can you start? And I actually said, if you've got some interns now, I can take them to the office with me now. And they're like, no, when could you start teaching? And I'm like, teaching what? Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you should be teaching the business of touring, live entertainment. I'm like, what? And so I definitely had a voice outside of my head saying, the craziest fucking thing you could do, Martin, is to do this, you know? And what a interesting, responsible move as a parent of 2 at the time, 4 now. And I thought it was just like an interesting side hustle on my resume, except I fucking love teaching. And that wasn't the move. The move was that there wasn't a textbook. So over the course of that first semester, I started to put all these ideas and exercises together and calling on friends to contribute. And that became my first book. And I thought that was the opportunity, but it wasn't. Once that book came out, people started to ask me to speak. I've spoken at the last 13 South by Southwest. I've been to Norway 5 times, South America, Germany, all over Europe and Brazil. So that was an interesting pivot for me because I'm very shy, weirdly. So it's one thing to be on stage behind a drum kit, but to be on stage talking was interesting. So yeah, that was really, really cool and unexpected for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. One of the big takeaways I took from those is the line down pretty much the middle of America, the touring line, and that to the east, there's all cities that are about 4 hours apart. Makes sense to tour those. West, they're really far apart and doesn't make much sense.
Of the largest 100 cities in America by population, only 16 of them are west of a line from Minneapolis down to San Antonio. But west of that line, that's the 2-day drives between shows. That's where you're going to chew up all your money in gas. You're going to start driving faster, so you'll burn more gas. Your miles per gallon will go down. That's where everything goes wrong. If you stay east of that line, you can arrive early, you can stay late, you can meet people, it's what it's all about. You can fix your equipment, you can shower, and do all of the other things around a show that make it possible for you to return the next time. And I mean, I showed that map to a guy called Todd Rundgren, and he fucking cried. He cried. We were at dinner. His manager used to manage Johnny Rotten, and we just ended up having dinner. I don't know. I was out in LA, and I showed him the map, and his wife he just started crying. He's like, "Fuck!" And it's just the point of that is just to look before you jump in a vehicle and go wherever you go. Whether you go to the east or the west of that line. What if your fans aren't even in North America? What if all of your fans are in Japan or Belgium? It's just preaching a more considered way of doing this. I'm not saying don't be fucking crazy. I mean, I'm saying be crazy on stage where it counts with a 5-neck guitar and be be fucking insane. Don't blow all of the margins you have on miles per gallon of bullshit because you didn't bother to do any planning at all.
When did you start to figure all that out over the course of your career?
I remember when, because it's weird so I teach music business. So people are like, oh, they just think it's me in a spreadsheet. It's like, hold on. There's me on stage with 30 people, 8 drummers, one of whom is Danny Carey, 3 bass players of note, I get to do that crazy stuff because I understand what I'm doing, Don't put me into some kind of business pigeonhole. My business acumen enables me to blow all of that and have 8 drum kits on stage. But I was on stage I was part of and managing Killing Joke. And we were in a club in Texas. And one of my favorite things when I'm drumming is to have excessive amounts of monitors for my drums. So when I hit the bass drum, it's like I'm getting punched in the kidneys. And then when it's coming out of the house, people are getting punched in the stomach 50 rows back. And so we're on stage for sound check, and I'm like, hitting my bass drum. I'm like, hey, monitor guy, turn on the monitors. I want to hear my bass drum. And he's like, it's on. I'm like, what? So not only am I not going to have a good time, but it's dangerous for me. If I can't hear my drums, I'll just keep playing louder and louder. And I could blow my knee out, So then I'm like, okay, house guy, turn on the house system. At least I'll be able to hear boo boo in the empty room. I'll get that reverb slap back. And he says, it's on. I'm like, what the fuck? So it's obvious to me, most of the shows we're playing, it's a $12 ticket. This show is a $20 ticket. So the promoter has done their crazy promoter math of like, it's going to be 400 people here. If I charge $12, that's however much that is, 4,200. If I charge 20, it's $8,000. I'll double my money. But he didn't double his money. He less than halved his audience. So instead of selling 400 tickets, he sold like 160. So the only thing he can do at that point is save money wherever he can. So he brings in a crappy set of monitors and a crappy sound system. And the whole reason for that was the promoter was allowed to charge too much money for a ticket. And then that lack of business, marketing, and policing of the parameters of the show led to a shitty sound system, a bad monitor system, which ruined the vibe on stage and allowed people in a venue. It wasn't insistent. People could have a conversation 10 rows back. It was like, hello, there's a band on stage, remember us. And I just thought a little bit of business and attention to detail could really enhance the situation, you know? So that's when I started to really dig into that stuff. And, you know, I'm sure there are many people who are only in the music business for a few years. You know, they're in a band, they put out 1 or 2 albums, it goes well for a bit, then it goes badly, and then they're out doing something else. I've been lucky enough to be doing this, I mean, kind of professionally since I was 16, and I'm 61. So, you know, I mean, I think it took longer than it should have for some of these lessons to fight their way through the drugs and the alcohol to go, oh, shit, you know. So, yeah.
When I was a teenager, the Commercial Zone album, you know, the Keith Levene's recordings, was like the holy grail for me. And I can still remember the feeling of excitement of finding the vinyl copy of it at Brass City Records in Waterbury, Connecticut. Now, I know you're a huge archivist, but does that extend beyond collecting your own stuff? Have there been any holy grails that you've been after?
Oh, I've got 4 drawers of board tapes, alternative mixes. So if you're a Pill fan, I've got both nights in Paris. It was released as Paris Au Printemps. That was my first show. And I have both nights, I have the board tapes. It was actually my suggestion that we release it as a live album. I've got both nights in Tokyo, was we released one night. And I have, so it's interesting that you call it Keith Levene's album. It's only Keith Levene's album in the sense that he stole the tapes.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, so I have, I talk about this in one of my presentations. While we were in New York, there were 17 rolls of 2-inch tape. So this is me applying, I have my master's degree now, big deal, but it changes the way I look at things. So instead of just going, we recorded a bunch of material, it was crazy. Well, how much material did we record? Like, okay, so I go and look at my cassette archive. There's 17 rolls of 2-inch tape. How much music fits on a roll? 32 minutes. Like, oh my God. So now I have a spreadsheet with all of the songs, all of the versions. And there are some songs on Commercial Zone that Keith isn't even on that he didn't know existed until he took the tapes.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to tell you the story of why he was fired from the band?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think it's any secret that Keith had a drug problem, like a really serious drug problem. A really serious problem with serious drugs, right? Mm. I think we were all using speed and drinking a lot, but he was levels above. And there were times, you know, John is a magical, charismatic individual. And his charisma protected PIL, right? I mean, there could be 10,000 people in a room and John could stare everybody down, right? More effectively than security punching people, you know, and we were protected by that. It also allowed for Keith to be not always there at shows. You know, he'd take a 2-song break and we just do a instrumental version, or John would just sing over bass and drums and people will be like, wow, Pill, it's crazy. Instead of, hold on a minute, where's the fucking guitarist? I like this song. And so, but we got away with it. I think less and less, but we did get away with it. When we booked 10 shows in Japan, the walls started to close in on this version of the band. And there are very strict drug laws in Japan. You can't have a Vicks inhaler. They're illegal because they're a stimulant. Yeah. So never mind heroin, right?
Yeah.
And then Paul McCartney and his band Wings, he got off a plane with like a kilo of weed. He was in jail for 11 days. I mean, the world went mad. He was in jail for 11 days. He was fined $1 million and then let go. But what happened was every Japanese promoter then retroactively inserted something called the Paul McCartney clause into their contracts, which meant that if you or anybody traveling with you was caught with any drugs, the tour was canceled and everything was forfeit, but we still owed the promoters what they estimated to have made on the show. Like, oh my goodness. So suddenly we've got 10 shows with 3,000 people. They're all sold out. And suddenly it isn't like getting away with something, forcing the issue and staring people down. It's like, hold on a minute, man. I don't know that we could do this. But we'd already had money. We'd had these agreements. And there was just no way we could take Keith. And in the meeting we had to try and discuss what we were going to do, things got very heated. And in the same way, sometimes with Killing Joke, I'd stand up and I feel like I just stood up. But then looking around me, I'd realized I'd throw my drums all over the stage. In the same way that I would do that, I think John stood up and instantly a metal chair was all the way across the room, embedded sideways in a wall at the loft in New York. And that was it, you know, that was the end. We had to put a new band together to go to Japan to fulfill the contractual commitments we had.
Oh.
And then while we were doing that, Keith took the tapes and as I said, there's a song called Miller High Life on there. That's Bob Miller, our engineer, producer at the time, our collaborator, in the same way that Nick Launay collaborated on The Flowers of Romance. And we were feeding the drum kit through a synthesizer. I'm like, we were just like, fuck, you know, crazy experiments, just like The Flowers of Romance. And Keith didn't even know that song existed until he took the tapes.
I had no idea. Wow. Yeah, man. So these talks have been super interesting. And like, I've been really impressed by your spirit of, and saying, you know, if you give to the scene, it'll give back to you. And like when I first found you on Twitter, you were giving away PDFs to your Welcome to the Music Business book. And lately you've been doing tons of free talks. Do you care to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm doing, so I think I was really lucky that, so I work with students and we created a music business conference called Midwest Music Expo. And March, it's like, well, we can't do it in May. We've got to cancel it. We can't bring all these people together, bring the community together. Such a great event for the school in Millikan University down in Decatur and the Decatur, Illinois community. So we canceled it and we started to do like this weekly edition, which is pretty cool. Mm. And then once we started getting used to Zoom and we're like, you know what? We could do an all-day event like this. So we did, May the 9th. And we tripled registrations over the year before. And instead of having people from a 150-mile radius of Decatur, Illinois, Nashville, Indianapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, we had people from 23 countries. So for me, that was a gift. It was this blessing of like, I saw very clearly it's shit. And my band Pigface had 42 dates canceled. But there are other things that you can do right now. So we started to do MMX every week, and I started to do free touring classes. We announced that like 3 weeks ago. The first waitlist, 107 people, filled up very quickly. Second waitlist, 85. The third list was at like 42 people this morning. And there are people from all over the world: New Zealand, Australia, El Salvador, South Africa, Chile, Brazil, Germany, UK, Canada. And it's like, holy shit. And so now I do one on a Monday night, but because there are so many time zones involved, I do on a Saturday morning at like 10 o'clock, you know. We're working on a Latin American version with translation. And it's just to sit and connect with people from all over the world and have some guy from New Zealand asking me questions. Fuck knows what time it is. It's a different day over there, you know? And so you've got somebody in Vegas and Boston and Canada who are in their rooms just thinking everything's fucked, suddenly connecting with people. And, you know, I've been teaching touring for 17 years. I've been doing it all my life. I think my classes are great, but the hangouts afterwards are really special. And now we're working on a Facebook group for everybody so they can connect outside of class. And I've really found that when you can get over the shit that's raining down on your own head and help people with the shit that's raining down on theirs, it makes the shit raining down on yours kind of less impactful, and in some cases makes it disappear entirely.
Yeah. That's great, man. I've been enjoying your talks a lot.
That's my kind of, you know, extreme punk edition. You know, like, yeah, I gave away Welcome to the Music Business, You're Fucked. Like, if I am punk, then wouldn't I want everybody just to have it, you know? And similarly, if I am worried about people in a pandemic not seeing hope, how could I charge for my class? I mean, I could charge for my class. Obviously, I could charge for my class. Yeah. But I don't want to. And so then, then the business thing is like, the class is free, but the book's 30, the other book's 30, the t-shirt's 20, the fold-out chart with your map to success, right? It's like, no, all that, well, there isn't a shirt, but the book is free as well. It's like, I'm not trying to do anything except build connections and help people.
That's great. Yeah, at the end of the talk the other night, you were talking about just do things, which to me is the punk rock spirit. You know, people think punk rock's rebellious and all that, but it's more just doing it without waiting for permission or the time to be right, making things happen.
Right, but it is rebellious. Sometimes you're just rebelling against all of the things that are weighing down on you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, I did this. So I went up to the guys at Dark Matter who make my coffee, get the fuck out of bed. The day that everything got shut down, they've got 107 employees in 7 stores, and the wave of fear, panic, they were paralyzed. And I felt, I mean, I'm an empathetic person. All of that energy was like, oh, fuck. I made a donation to their employee fund, which is a lot for me, but meaningless, spread across 107 people. And I came back here to the label and I reworked my Get the Fuck Out of Bed logo. And I came up with this: stay the fuck inside. And we did a poster as well. And I made 100 bags. And I'm just screen printing water-based ink on a brown paper bag. Cost me $40 for 200 of these. And then I signed them because like, ooh. And I took those bags up to Dark Matter. They paired this bag with the other bag, sold the pair for $50, did 100 in a day. We ended up getting 300 overall. It raised $15,000 for them in a week.
That's awesome.
And all I did was print some fucking bags. But at the same time, I'm helping, which relaxes me. But I'm also, not that it's great physical labor to print 300 bags, but it's, you know, it's putting them on
Focus.
a clothesline, letting them dry, and, you know, is activity. So I slept better, and I create this story, and now is the time to help people. Not 3 months from now when everything gets back to normal, because I don't think it ever will. It won't go back to how it was. There'll be a new normal. And so to me, this is punk as fuck, you know, and we've gone on to print t-shirts, posters. Now there's a button, stay the fuck inside button. We put that in free with all these orders, and we've started to customize the shirt. So in Boston, Massachusetts, the Once Club, now their shirt says Once Somerville says, stay the fuck inside. Or the Starlight Bar, Tulsa, Oklahoma says, stay the fuck inside. So we send them bags, buttons, and shirts, and then they put drinks tickets inside of the bags. They'll sell the bag with the shirt and the button and the drinks tickets for $50. So my gift of 20 shirts and some bags gets them $1,000. Like, it's fucking, if that isn't punk, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's all my questions, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You got anything you want to add or plug or anything? Anything coming up?
I'd like to send you a link to the free classes. Do you have that link?
No. So,
okay.
Yeah, send it to me, please.
I'll ask Molly to send you a free link to the classes so people can sign up and do that. Honestly, we've done so much touring in so many different ways that the ideas are really good and they apply to other businesses too. I'll send you that link. And anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I'm Martin, Marteee, 4 E's, just like the old days, and an N.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Martin.
Thanks. Thanks for taking the time. It was nice to talk to you.